Welcome to the Explainer. So today, we're going to be looking at a virtual world where the characters, well, they're starting to think for themselves. And it all started when one of them just decided to throw a party.
Okay, so take a look at this. At first glance, it just looks like a scene from a video game, right? Kind of like The Sims. But there is something absolutely incredible happening here that you can't see. This entire party, I'm talking the idea, the invites, everyone showing up, it was all organized and attended entirely by AI. So you gotta ask, how on earth did they pull that off?
And here's the kicker. The part that's really going to blow your mind. The developers didn't script any of this. I mean, no coded instructions for invitations, no scheduled arrivals, nothing. The entire thing just snowballed from a single simple idea given to just one character.
Yeah, that one little prompt unlocked something amazing. And it really makes you wonder, right? How do you even build an AI that has a mind of its own? Well, the answer lies in this really cool new concept called Generative Agents. Basically, we're talking about AI with a memory and even a will, all its own.
All right, let's get into it. To really understand how this all works, we've got to look at the story of this party. It all went down in a simulated town called, funnily enough, Smallville. And it was populated by 25 of these AI agents. So, researchers from Stanford and Google, they set up this really simple experiment. They took one agent, Isabella, and gave her a single thought. You want to throw a Valentine's Day party. And then, for a little bit of drama, they gave her friend Maria a secret crush on another agent named Klaus. And that's it. That was literally all the human input they provided.
So what happened next? Well, it was completely 100% unscripted. Isabella just started inviting friends, and those friends told other friends. The news about this party spread totally organically through the town, just like it would in real life. It's pretty amazing to watch. And this is what we call emergent social behavior. And trust me, it's a huge leap forward. These agents didn't just follow some pre-written script. No, they formed new relationships. They coordinated plans. They even asked each other out on dates. And get this, Maria, remembering her little crush, she actually invited Klaus to the party. And he said yes. This is so far beyond the kind of stuff we're used to seeing from characters in games.
So, to really get why this spontaneous party is such a game changer, let's just do a quick recap of how typical game characters, NPCs, usually work. Okay, so here is the crucial difference. Traditional game AI, it's basically a puppet on strings. It follows scripts that someone wrote for it, it says lines someone wrote for it, and it usually has the memory of a goldfish. But these generative agents, they are totally different. They create their own plans, they remember things, they reflect on them, and they react to new stuff. They're not just following code, they're creating believable behavior totally on the fly. So what's the secret sauce here? What makes all this possible? Well, it all comes down to a new kind of digital brain. An agent architecture built on 3 key pillars: memory, reflection, and planning.
Now, this architecture you're seeing, this is the engine that makes the whole thing go. And it's basically a continuous loop. It kicks off when an agent perceives something in its world. That observation gets logged in what's called a memory stream. Then the system pulls out the important memories, which lets the agent reflect and then plan what to do next. That plan leads to an action, which, you guessed it, creates a new perception, and the whole cycle just starts all over again.
So let's break that digital brain down a little. Think of the memory stream as a super detailed diary. It's a log of literally everything the agent experiences. Then you have reflection, and this is where it gets really cool. The agent actually thinks about its diary entries to form bigger, more abstract ideas, like, you know what? I think I really enjoy doing research. And finally, there's planning. This is like a dynamic to-do list for the day, one that it can change in an instant if something unexpected pops up.
And check out how this works in practice. So our agent Klaus, right? He has dozens of little memories stored away, reading an article, going to the library, talking to someone about research. The reflection engine takes all those little pieces and synthesizes them into one big idea. Klaus Müller is super dedicated to his research, and boom, that core belief now guides his future choices.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, right? But the researchers, they had to prove it. They needed to show that these complex agents are actually more believable than simpler versions without all the bells and whistles.
And how'd they test it? They basically interviewed the AI agents and had real people rate their answers for believability. The results? Well, they're pretty undeniable. Just look at this chart. The full architecture, it was rated as way more believable. But the second you take away reflection or planning, poof, the believability just collapses. It proves that every single piece of this digital brain is absolutely critical.
Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So without that ability to reflect, an agent named Maria just could not figure out what to get her friend as a gift. But when she had reflection turned on, she synthesized all her memories and confidently suggested a gift based on his super specific niche interests. I mean, that is a massive jump in how believable these characters can be. But, they're not perfect. The system isn't flawless. Agents can sometimes make these funny little mistakes, like misremembering details or even totally embellishing facts. There was one that claimed its neighbor wrote Wealth of Nations, which, is a bit of a stretch. It just goes to show the technology is incredibly powerful, but it's definitely still developing.
So, pretty clearly, this technology is about way more than just making smarter video game characters. So what happens when these agents leave the simulation of Smallville and start entering the real world? Well, the potential applications are just vast.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You could prototype the social dynamics of a brand new app before a single human even signs up. Imagine creating hyper-realistic training simulations for, say, a doctor who has to learn how to deliver bad news. This could unlock entirely new forms of interactive entertainment where the characters don't just follow a script, they're writing it right there with you.
But of course, with any new technology this powerful, there are big questions we have to ask. The researchers themselves are very clear that we have to be thoughtful. When these AI agents become this believable, you really have to consider how people are going to interact with them. We need to make sure they're being used to help us, not to manipulate us or to replace real, genuine human connection.
And that really leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought. These agents, they're not just lines of code. In a way, they're becoming a kind of digital mirror for human social behavior. So if a simulated society can organize itself, create relationships, and build a culture all on its own, what are we going to learn about ourselves by watching them?